On a stormy night in Charleston, two little girls stood shivering beneath a restaurant's glowing sign. Their hair was soaked, their hands trembling, and their voices barely more than a whisper as they begged strangers for leftovers. Most people passed by without even a glance. But then, something remarkable happened. A man, a wealthy CEO, stopped. For years, Nathan Carter had built walls around his broken heart after losing his daughter. Yet in that moment, one look into the twins' tearful eyes shattered those walls forever. He did not just give them food, he gave them hope. And what followed would change all of their lives in ways no one could have imagined. This is not just a story about kindness. It is about second chances, about finding family where you least expect it. Stay with us and subscribe to Hidden Echo Stories for more tales that touch the soul. The rain had not slowed all evening. It fell in long, unbroken lines, drumming against the city of Charleston as if the sky itself had decided to test the strength of its streets. The cobblestones glistened like polished glass, each puddle reflecting the blurred glow of neon signs and the sweep of car headlights. People hurried beneath umbrellas, their footsteps quick, their faces hidden, eager to escape the chill of the storm. Yet on one corner, beneath the bright awning of magnolia and oak, one of the city's finest restaurants, the storm did not simply soak through fabric and hair. It pressed into the silence of two small figures huddled against a stone wall. The girls were twins, no more than 7, thin coats hanging heavy with water, sleeves frayed, shoes long past worn out. Their arms clung to each other, one holding a battered cardboard sign painted in uneven strokes of blue. "Hungry, please help." Their eyes followed the stream of diners as they exited the restaurant, arms laden with to-go boxes, their laughter rising above the rain. The girls did not shout. They did not chase anyone. Instead, when the crowd thinned, one gave a quiet nod to the other, and together they stepped forward. Their voices trembled but carried just enough to be heard. "Do you have any leftovers, please?" Most did not answer. Some looked away quickly as though eye contact might obligate them. Others muttered about careless parents, one woman pulling her coat tighter with a scowl. The twins' hope dimmed with each dismissal, but still they stood, waiting. The storm clung to them, plastering hair across their cheeks, soaking their thin sleeves until their arms shivered visibly. Across the street, a man paused. His name was Nathan Carter, a man Charleston knew well, though he had never asked to be known. His face often appeared in magazines, attached to words like self-made, visionary, or untouchable. He wore success like a tailored suit, and indeed, tonight his Tom Ford coat gleamed even in the downpour, water tracing smooth lines across its fabric. At first glance, Nathan was the picture of power and control. But beneath the immaculate surface, shadows clung tighter than the rain. He lifted his eyes toward the glowing restaurant windows, watching the silhouettes inside raise glasses and exchange smiles. Yet what he saw in the glass was not comfort but reflection. His own face, sharp jaw, eyes tired with years of silence. There had been a time when those eyes lit up at the sound of a child's laughter. That time ended the day his daughter, Emily, was taken by an illness no amount of money could erase. Since then, the world had become quieter, colder. Nathan carried grief like a second skin, hidden beneath the polish of success. The rain tonight pressed harder against him than usual. It tapped into the hollow places, reminding him of memories he had tried to bury beneath meetings, signatures, and empty hours. For a fleeting second, he thought he heard Emily's laugh in the patter of rain. He closed his eyes, fighting the ache rising in his chest. When he opened them again, he saw the twins. Their faces lifted to a stranger only to be ignored once more. Nathan froze. Something about the tilt of their heads, the raw mixture of hope and fear in their eyes, struck him with the force of memory. They reminded him too much of Emily. His heart pounded. Every instinct told him to move on, to keep walking, to let someone else step in. That was safer. That was what he had done so many nights before. But tonight his feet refused. He stood in the rain, chest tight, as the girls asked again, their small voices almost drowned by the storm. He glanced down at the paper bag in his hand, untouched food meant for a meeting that had been canceled. The weight of it suddenly felt different. It was not just a bag. It was the answer to the question in their eyes. He stepped closer, water seeping into his polished shoes, the cold finally finding him. He crouched so he could meet them eye to eye. "Are you hungry?" His voice was rough, unfamiliar even to himself. Both girls nodded silently. He held out the bag with care as though it contained something more precious than leftovers. One girl reached for it, her fingers trembling from cold. The other did not look at the food. She looked directly at Nathan, her eyes searching his face with a seriousness far beyond her years. The contact pierced straight through him, leaving his throat tight, his breath unsteady. For the first time in years, Nathan felt a crack in the walls he had built. Not just sorrow, but something else, an awakening, a purpose stirring where only numbness had lived. The storm roared around them, yet for that moment the world narrowed to three figures: a man rediscovering his heart and two children desperate for kindness. He swallowed hard and managed to find his name. "I'm Nathan," he said softly. "What are your names?" The smaller girl's chin quivered, but she stepped forward. "I'm Lily. This is my sister, Lacey." Nathan nodded slowly, his chest tightening again. "Lily, Lacey, I am glad to meet you." As umbrellas drifted past, as laughter spilled from the restaurant's doors, Nathan realized something he had not allowed himself to believe in years. His life was about to change. Not because he wanted it to, not because he had planned it, but because two little girls, standing in the rain with hope still flickering in their eyes, had reminded him of what it meant to be human. And for the first time in a very long time, Nathan Carter did not walk away. The girls hesitated before answering Nathan's gentle question. Their faces were pale, but there was a spark of trust beginning to flicker in their eyes. Lily held the food bag close to her chest as though it were a treasure, while Lacey clutched the worn cardboard sign. Rain still dripped from their hair, sliding down their cheeks in cold rivers. Nathan crouched lower, trying to make himself less imposing, though his expensive suit and tall frame could not easily be disguised. "Is there somewhere you need to go?" he asked softly. His voice sounded strange to him, almost vulnerable. The twins exchanged a look that spoke of years of silent communication, then Lily nodded. "Our mama is sick at home. We promised we would bring her something to eat." Lacey's voice followed, trembling but determined. "Will you come with us, so no one takes us away?" The plea cut through him like lightning. Nathan felt his chest tighten. In their question was not only fear, but the memory of promises broken, doors slammed, people who had turned away. He could not be one of them. He rose slowly, offered his hand, and nodded. "I will come. I will make sure you are safe." Relief spread across their faces, fragile but real. Lacey leaned into his side as though she had been waiting for this moment of safety her whole life. Lily slipped her small hand into his, and he squeezed gently, careful not to show how much his own hand trembled. Together, they stepped into the night, rain-soaked streets stretching before them. Nathan matched his pace to theirs, his polished shoes splashing in shallow puddles as they led him away from the bright district. For years he had walked these streets consumed by emails, deadlines, deals. Tonight every sound pressed sharper against his senses: the rhythm of the rain, the nervous breaths of the girls, the distant hum of traffic. For the first time in a long time he was fully present. They guided him through side streets where neon faded into fog and street lamps glowed weakly, swallowed by shadows. The air was heavy, damp, and carried the scent of neglect. Windows in old buildings flickered with the blue glow of televisions. Behind curtains, lives were lived quietly, unseen by the wealthier parts of the city. The girls navigated with practiced steps, pausing at a warped floorboard, avoiding a loose stone. This was not their first walk home in the rain. At last, they stopped in front of a worn brick building with chipped paint and graffiti curling across the entrance. Lily pulled a small key from her shoe, sliding it into the lock with a careful twist. The door groaned open, revealing a stairwell steeped in darkness and damp wood. Nathan followed them upward, his footsteps echoing unnaturally loud against the narrow walls. They reached a battered green door. Lily turned the key again. Inside, the air was heavy with the smell of medicine gone stale, damp laundry, and something faintly sweet, like children's shampoo clinging stubbornly to the air. A sagging couch, a tired armchair, a kitchenette with cracked windows letting in drafts. The room spoke of survival, not comfort. On the couch lay their mother, Julia Turner. Bundled beneath mismatched blankets, her face was pale and gaunt, lips dry and cracked, dark hair matted to her forehead with sweat. Her chest rose and fell unevenly, punctuated by sharp, rattling coughs. An empty pill bottle lay on the floor near her hand, beside a photograph in a cracked frame. Two smiling girls in matching dresses outside a sunlit church. Nathan froze, the sight colliding with memories of hospital rooms, monitors, the helplessness of watching a child slip away. Rage and sorrow surged through him, rage at a world that abandoned families like this, sorrow at how easily life's storms could break someone down. For once, his wealth, his status, all the polished armor he carried felt like nothing more than glass. "Mom," Lily whispered, setting the food bag gently on the table before kneeling at her mother's side. "We brought someone. We brought help." Julia stirred, her eyes half opening, unfocused and clouded with fever. "Girls, is it raining again?" Her voice was a ghost of itself, thin and broken. Lacey knelt on the other side, smoothing her mother's damp hair. "It is okay, Mama. We are here. This is Nathan. He is nice. He helped us." Nathan dropped to one knee, his pulse racing. He reached for Julia's wrist, finding a rapid, shallow pulse beneath her icy skin. She was slipping. His jaw tightened. Pity was not enough. This time he would not stand helpless. "Julia," he said gently, as if the sound of her name might anchor her. "I am here to help." She coughed, lips moving, but words would not come. He glanced at the girls. Their eyes held both terror and hope, demanding something more than empty promises. Nathan pulled his phone from his pocket, fingers trembling but sure, and dialed 911. His voice was calm, commanding when the operator answered. "This is an emergency. Adult female, late 30s, severe respiratory distress, high fever, barely conscious. 2 minors present. 174 Crescent Avenue, Unit 2B, please hurry." Each word carried the urgency he felt in his chest. As the call ended, he covered Julia's hand with his own, grounding her, refusing to let her slip further. "Help is coming," he promised, even if she could not hear. Sirens began to wail in the distance, growing louder with every second. Lily and Lacey clung to their mother, eyes wide, their small shoulders trembling. Nathan looked at them and felt his resolve harden into something unbreakable. When the paramedics arrived, the small apartment burst into a flurry of voices and movement. Julia was lifted carefully, oxygen pressed against her lips, monitors attached in quick succession. Nathan guided the twins, keeping them close, steadying them as strangers filled the room. They followed the stretcher down narrow stairs, out into the night, and into the waiting ambulance. Inside, the world was harsh fluorescent light and the steady beeping of machines. Nathan sat beside Julia, one hand gripping her arm as if to lend her strength. Across from him, Lily and Lacey held each other tightly, silent except for the occasional sniffle. Every bump in the road jolted the ambulance, jolting Nathan back into memories of his daughter's final ride. But this time he would not allow the same ending. The hospital loomed bright against the storm, doors flung open as nurses rushed to meet them. Julia was swept away, the girls clinging to Nathan's hands as though he were the only thing keeping them anchored in the chaos. At the reception desk, a nurse raised her brows at the sight of Nathan, dripping wet, with 2 shivering children pressed against him. "Are you family?" she asked. "Yes," Nathan said without hesitation. "They are with me. Julia Turner needs immediate care, private room, whatever it takes. Put it on my account." He did not blink when he handed over his platinum card. Within moments, Julia was wheeled toward the trauma wing. Nathan guided the twins to a waiting room, arranging for blankets, hot cocoa, even a television with cartoons. He wrapped his coat around them, listening to their breathing slow as exhaustion claimed them. For the first time in years, Nathan Carter made a promise he intended to keep. He would not leave, not when the rain stopped, not when the sun returned, not ever. The hospital room smelled faintly of antiseptic and warm linen. A place where the storm outside seemed held at a distance. Nathan sat in a chair pulled close to Julia's bed. Her face was pale but calmer now, her breath still shallow but steadier than before. The girls perched at her sides, each clutching one of her hands, their eyes wide and watchful as if afraid she might vanish should they look away. Julia stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She tried to sit up, but Lily gently pressed her back. "Mama, the doctor said you need to rest," she whispered with the gravity of a caretaker far older than her years. Julia managed a faint smile, her gaze flickering from her daughters to Nathan. "You did not have to stay," she murmured, her voice hoarse but clear enough to carry. Nathan set the paper bag of muffins he had brought on the tray beside her. "I wanted to," he replied simply. She blinked, caught between gratitude and embarrassment. "I was supposed to protect them. Instead, they are protecting me." Her tone carried no self-pity, only exhaustion and the raw honesty of someone stretched too thin. Nathan's chest tightened. He thought of his daughter, of the promises he had tried so desperately to keep, and the ones he had failed. "I lost my little girl years ago," he admitted, his voice unsteady. "Her name was Emily. I threw everything I had into saving her, doctors, hospitals, money. But there are storms you cannot outspend, no matter how much you give. When she was gone, I built walls so nothing could ever hurt that badly again. But meeting Lily and Lacey," he broke off, swallowing the ache that rose like a tide. "They reminded me of what matters. You do not have to face this alone, Julia. Not anymore." Tears shimmered in her eyes. She reached weakly for his hand and whispered, "Thank you." But peace was short-lived. A knock sounded at the door. A nurse entered, followed by a woman in a stiff gray suit, her smile practiced but cold. "Julia Turner, I am Ms. Briggs from Child Protective Services. We received reports of minors begging outside a restaurant. We need to discuss their welfare." Julia's hands trembled. Lily instinctively pulled Lacey closer, shielding her. Nathan rose, positioning himself between the twins and the visitor. "With respect," he said firmly, "Julia is recovering. If you need to talk, you will do so with her lawyer present." Ms. Briggs studied him coolly. "Mr. Carter, our concern is for the children. If their mother is unable to provide, we must consider alternatives. Temporary foster care at minimum." Julia's face crumpled. "Please do not take them, they are all I have." Her daughters pressed against her side, their terror unspoken but visible. Nathan's voice hardened, cutting through the room like steel. "You are not taking them anywhere. Not while I am here. I will fight this with everything I have." The official faltered under his certainty, retreating with a clipped promise to return. As the door shut, Julia broke into silent sobs. Nathan knelt, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "You are not alone anymore. I mean that." He looked at the twins, their fragile courage breaking his heart. In their eyes he saw not only grief but the possibility of healing, of a family bound not by chance but by choice. Days later, the courthouse became their battlefield. Its marble floors echoed with nervous footsteps, its benches filled with families waiting their turn. In courtroom 3B, Julia sat beside Nathan, her hands trembling in her lap. The twins sat between them, small but dignified, holding hands as if welded together. At the front stood Greg Turner, the girl's biological father. His suit was sharp but his eyes restless. He claimed sobriety, steady work, a new apartment. His lawyer painted a picture of redemption, of a man who deserved another chance. But when asked about his daughters, their birthdays, their favorite foods, Greg stumbled, confusing details, hesitating over their ages. When it was their turn, Julia's affidavit was read aloud. Her voice, though recorded, carried the weight of truth. "I did everything I could, but I was sick. My daughters kept me alive. We are not broken. We are unfinished." Nathan Carter was the first person who stayed. The judge turned to the twins, her voice gentle. "Lily, Lacey, would you like to speak?" Lily sat straighter, her face pale but determined. "We were scared. Mama got sick. Our dad never came back. Mr. Nathan stayed. He read to us every night at the hospital. He brought food. He did not leave." She glanced at Lacey, who wiped at her eyes but spoke firmly. "Dad said he would come for Christmas, but he never did. We waited every year. Mama says sometimes people just leave, but Mr. Nathan did not." The courtroom fell into silence, heavy and raw. Even the bailiff shifted uneasily. The judge listened, her expression unreadable. Then Rachel Kim, Nathan's lawyer, rose one last time. "We are not asking to erase anyone from these girls' lives. We are asking for stability, for love, for safety. Julia has made extraordinary progress. Mr. Carter has given his resources, his time, and his heart." The judge let the silence stretch before she spoke. "The best interests of Lily and Lacey Turner are served by remaining with their mother, Julia Turner, with Mr. Carter as guardian and support during her recovery. Greg Turner's visitation rights are suspended pending further evaluation." Julia sobbed, clutching her daughters. Lily and Lacey cried and laughed at once, burying themselves in her arms. Nathan placed his hands on their shoulders, fighting his own tears. The judge gave him a small nod, a recognition of his role. Outside, sunlight pierced the clouds, spilling across the courthouse steps like a blessing. Together, hand in hand, they stepped into a new chapter. Weeks later, moving day dawned bright and clear. The townhouse Nathan had found was modest but full of light, with a painted porch swing and a small yard. Lily and Lacey burst through the door, laughter echoing as they explored every corner. Their rooms were painted in colors they had chosen themselves, lavender for Lily, yellow for Lacey. Julia stood in the doorway, her strength slowly returning, her face lit with a smile Nathan had not seen before. Friends gathered, neighbors brought food, laughter filled the home. Even the once stern restaurant manager arrived with a pie, apologizing for the night she had nearly turned the girls away. The house, once silent, now rang with warmth and voices. That evening, after the last guest had gone, Nathan stood before the fireplace, pinning a crayon drawing above the mantel, 4 stick figures holding hands beneath the sun. Julia joined him, her voice quiet but steady. "I do not know how to thank you," she said. He shook his head. "You were strong enough to survive. I only showed up when you needed it." Their silence carried possibility. Family, chosen and real, was taking shape. In the days that followed, laughter filled the small house. Julia's health improved. The girls grew bolder, and Nathan discovered something he had not felt in years: home. The grief that had once defined him gave way to hope, messy and real, built from love and second chances. He had stepped into the rain, a man carrying ghosts. He had emerged holding a family. There are moments in life when the world seems to move too fast, when storms arrive without warning, and when loneliness feels heavier than any burden one person should carry. Nathan Carter knew that world well. He had built walls around himself so high that even hope struggled to climb over. And yet, it took 2 small girls standing in the rain to remind him that love still exists in places we least expect. Lily and Lacey did not have much. No warm coats, no full cupboards, no certainty about tomorrow. But they had each other. Their bond, fragile but unbreakable, became the key that opened Nathan's locked heart. By choosing not to walk away, by reaching out with the simplest of gestures, he discovered that sometimes the greatest wealth is not measured in numbers, but in the lives we choose to protect. Julia, their mother, was a woman who had given everything she had just to keep her children safe. Even in her weakness, she showed a strength most could never comprehend. And when her path crossed with Nathan's, the story shifted. What began as an act of compassion grew into something larger, a fight for dignity, for family, for a future that once seemed impossible. It was not easy. The road was full of trials, legal battles, cold hospital nights, and the weight of past mistakes that threatened to resurface. But in the middle of those storms, a new family began to take root. Not perfect, not without scars, but real. And real is enough. The beauty of this story lies not just in the victories won, but in the transformation of a man who had forgotten what it meant to belong. Nathan's wealth gave him power, but it was his willingness to stay, to fight, to open his heart that gave him purpose. Julia's courage, Lily's quiet determination, and Lacey's unwavering trust became the foundation of something stronger than any storm. And perhaps that is what all of us need to remember, that love does not arrive with fanfare. It does not always knock politely. Sometimes it appears in the form of two children asking for leftovers in the rain. And when it does, we are given a choice, to walk past or to stop, and to let that choice rewrite not just their lives but our own. If this story touched you, if it reminded you that kindness still has the power to transform despair into hope, then let it stay with you. Carry it into your own life. Because every act of compassion, no matter how small, holds the possibility of creating a ripple that might save someone else. And if you want to hear more stories like this, stories of love found in unexpected places, of second chances, of lives rebuilt through courage and compassion, then join us. Subscribe to Hidden Echo Stories. Be part of a community that believes in the power of humanity, in the quiet miracles that happen every day. Because tomorrow, another story will begin, and you will not want to miss it.